In year 1994, the company General Motors launched the first commercial EV in the modern terms. So that was one of the major achievements because it was developed in by a small team, not in the General Motors headquarters, but in a split area. And they created basically a three-channel amplifier with an induction motor coupled with a nickel metal hydride battery, initially with a lead battery, then it turned to be a nickel metal hydride battery. And with that, they started piloting a leasing program, where people enjoyed for the first time of a modern performance EV. In the past, that was not the first. Of course, EV in the history, there were EVs for over 150 years before, but this one was using modern or contemporary power electronics, control systems, charging stations, and of course, it was really performant because it was about 120 kilowatts. So, which is an insane amount of power for an electric vehicle, and yeah, that was giving an extremely good impression to the lovers, to the early users that they adopted this car because they had the money to do so, and they were open to this new experience. What How it ended up, it was a bit sad because it there were a number of unfortunate decisions within the company. Of course, the whole project has to be kept secret while it was developing. Just a few 105 1500 or not even 2000 units were manufactured, so it was a very niche volume. They changed the batteries along the assembly line, so it was a very prototype project so far. What it makes that so unique is that not only the development was kept secret, but also that the way they scrapped and they recovered the units, it was a hard thing because many users didn't want to get rid of, and they were obliged by the contract to return the unit at the end of of the lease contract. So that was one of the most historical events in history, and some people didn't want to get rid, and some people found a way or creative ways to get those vehicles from the scrapyards where they were crunched and disassembled, or basically crunched and piled up. So many materials went to other people who started building new personal projects, and that was the seed for instance, for the Lightning motorcycle early prototype, or for instance, the T0, which was manufactured in a small workshop, like the motorcycle, like the Lightning. So in a small workshop by a bunch of aficionados, and yeah, they engineered some batteries and they built it around the motor, because the motor and the inverter at that time were the I'd say the secret sauce which was powering the vehicles. But they had to build a battery capable enough to deliver the amount of power that was required to feed the motor and inverter. So initially, them all played with lead acid, and many of them found a way that there was a way forward, which was lithium. In the case of motorcycles, it was a bit much harder because finding batteries which could be suitable for this form factor for this vehicle was extremely challenging. Also, the motor was massive, so it was automotive graded, and fitting that required a totally custom-made, tailor-made, massive chassis of stainless steel, of chromoly steel, and yeah, that was a gigantic motorcycle by proportion. So uh, it could be assimilated a kind of Hayabusa on steroids. In terms of automotive, the vehicle was a nimble two-seater, which was the T0, and initially powered by lead acid batteries. The range was pretty small, but it turned out that there were a couple of inverters. I think that one was coming from the computer industry, and they realized that if they, instead of using six base lead acid batteries, they were using the new, or the computer technology, the computer 1865, that would be a reasonable approach. What wasn't reasonable was the number. So what if we connect 6,000 cells to make a big battery for that car? But regardless of how full of sense was this statement, they made it. And that was the seed of what later became Tesla. So the T0 was prototyped by a guy, a very enthusiastic guy, and was improved by a couple more of colleagues that he found on his trip. And this T0, then it turned out to be the platform where all the technology matured, because the battery was not placed as a monoblock, so it was placed on the sides, on the sides of the vehicle. So you had to jump over the batteries in order to get into the car. So that was the initial seed of the vehicle, of the what will be later called Tesla. What the initial inventor created and realized that there was not enough range was, but he attached to the rear side of the vehicle a trailer, and this trailer contained a diesel generator, so or a gasoline generator anyway. So by adding some fuel, he could add additional range, and that was also the first serious range extender vehicle that I know from the modern times. Of course, there were a lot of attempts, and maybe later on we have heard of the BMW i3, but yeah, that one was very unique because you could attach or detach this trailer depending on the trip you were about to do. Of course, this idea was not moved forward, and those guys kept on developing, and they found an investor, which was now is pretty famous, that guy. But he joined the company, and yeah, they matured the idea, and they removed all the components from the T0, and they placed in a good chassis, not made by an aficionado, but made by professionals, and they took the Lotus, and from that on, the Tesla Roadster was built. And yeah, that's in a nutshell the short story of Tesla, and also the story of Lightning, and the story of modern EVs as we know, and how General Motors, either in a voluntary basis or just by a random chance, they they boosted this company and this new technology without acknowledging that. Maybe they acknowledged, but they ignored. So they made a kind of Kodak with the digital photography, or so. But yeah, that is one of the most interesting parts in history, and we are talking about more than 30 years ago already. So next time more.